Okay, so I was about to tell you some real accurate ways to work, but first I have to fix this. So click and a drag and hold down the Option key and just stop anywhere I want with that. Hold down the Shift key, select that guy as well, and then align to the right. Okay, so let's say that you're liking what you see here, but you want to make sure that everything is very accurate. So one thing you can do is turn on the guides, and like we mentioned, to use the guides you have to bring out the rulers, Command R, or go up to the view menu and bring them out. Command R is easy to remember, R is in rulers, and that'll flip-flop the rulers on and off, and then you can just simply drag out a guide from the top ruler. And if you don't see it, it's probably because you have the view options to turn the rulers off. And here's all your different options here, and I like just the simple shortcut of Command semicolon to bring the rulers out and off. So again, that's one way to work, and if you need a ruler that is vertical, you can drag out from the side, bring that out. So I'll do the Command semicolon. And here's some other ways to work, like if you're trying to figure out how far this is from here, and actually it's not that you want to know how far it is. Most of the time it's just that you want to be able to duplicate it here and here. So one way to do that is just take the magnifying glass and get really zoomed in there. And then rather than trying to measure it with the ruler, just simply make your own measuring stick. So what I usually do is grab the rectangle tool, then I just put a fill, no stroke. I'll usually pick a color that's way different than anything that I have going on, just so I don't accidentally leave it there when I go to print. And then I use the smart guides to help me. Like right there, it's telling me that I'm right on the anchor. If you don't see that, go up to view and make sure that smart guides are turned on. So that would look something like this. Go to smart guides, and now when I release it, it'll turn it on. And then I go right there, anchor, and then just click and drag and go right till I'm on the path of this one, and then that now becomes my measuring stick. So I'll Command minus to back out a little bit, and I'll either bring the actual measuring stick over with me, or just simply hold down the Option key to make a copy of it. And now I'll zoom in over here and then get that perfectly aligned right up at the top there, and then click on this one, purposely make it too small at first, and then go back, paying attention to my smart guides, and then do the same thing, bring this down here. And also you can set, you have options on the strokes, and if I bring this open, you get these options of how they terminate. So right here you have at the very end of the cap, it can either end perfectly flat, it can round out, or it can project a little bit beyond. And for accuracy, this butt cap option is the best one. And sometimes it just takes getting really dialed in here. And you can even move the mouse over and align it right on top of that. And there you go. That's now perfect. And then instead of duplicating that over here, it would make much more sense to just delete this one and then again go back to what we've learned before. In fact, in this case, if I'm too lazy to go up to get the other one, I know everything's centered, so I can select this guy, click on it again to put that box around it, come up here, select the align to center. At this point, I would say we are ready to bring our images out. I'll just click and drag these right off of my artboard. Anything outside of here would not print. Couple things to mention though. Make sure that if you do use fonts, typography on here, you pick a font that's either exactly the same as what's on your web pages, or pick something that contrasts with it nicely so that everything looks top-notch professional. Other things that you could consider adding to this page would maybe be your colors. Like you could bring out a little swatch block here, go back to Photoshop, and then pick all of your different colors here. Go see what their build is. Even bring in the hexadecimal color and come up with a nice just select nothing, come out here with the text tool, and then I had copied that information in, and now I'm pasting it out here, and I could come up with something that's a very consistent way to show these colors in here. And I'll select the color here, double click here, and then I'll paste that color in there. Click OK, and you could keep going with some nice way to organize all the different colors that we'll soon see here. I'm not going to do that for this one for now, but now let's talk about how to get these images in here from Photoshop and what size they should be. So now we do want to get into the size of this. So if we click on this, these are grouped together. We could either ungroup them just to select one, or we can double click again, and that takes us into this isolation mode. And you can always tell that if you're in here or you've accidentally gone in here by just looking up here. To go back out, you can just simply hit this arrow 1 or 2 times or 3 times, whatever it takes, however far into what they call those breadcrumbs. But anyway, the idea that we're after here is to find out now exactly how big this is in inches. If for some reason you're not set up in inches, then what you do is bring out the rulers, Command R, right click inside of a ruler and set it 2 inches. Now when you get just the one box selected, on a bigger computer it should show up automatically. If not, you can click here and transform. You can also go into the info palette, and we want to write these numbers down. In my case, I have 3.20 wide by 2.5, and we'll round to 2 decimal places, so that would be 5/6. So 3.20 by 2.56, and we're working in print now, not web. In print, you want to be at about 300 pixels per inch. So we want to bring in high quality images, as small as they are. We don't want to sacrifice any quality. Now, what we're going to do here in preparation for this is organize our layers a little bit. So I'm going to click on layers here, and let me get out of this isolation mode here. So this would be our layout. I'm going to lock this for now, and then we'll click down here, make a new layer, and we'll call this images. Now we'll go into Photoshop, and we'll start bringing these artboards out as those little tiny 3-ish by 2-ish images. We've already had some practice exporting your artboards out as images to share on your blogs, but we need high quality, so we're not going to do the simple export option that we did before. This time what we're going to do is we're going to do a different export option, and if you find a better way to do this, please share it with me and I'll share it with the class. But I think this is at least a decent enough way. That's the thing about Photoshop, is there's probably, we used to always say there's 2 or 3 ways to do things in Photoshop. These days it's maybe up to 4 or 5 different ways to do things. But I want to make sure that this is the artboard that I'm dealing with. We'll start with the home page, and I can see that it's selected this, and if I just toggle the eye off, yeah, that is indeed the one that I want. So I'm going to make sure that I have that artboard selected. Then I'm going to go up to File, Export, and export artboards to files. I want to choose where they're going to. And in my case, I probably want to make a new folder inside of here. and I'll call these 4AI, meaning those are the ones going in my Illustrator document. Click open here to let that be the file that it's going into. File name preferences, so let's call this home. And then I don't want overlapping areas. I only want the contents inside of the artboard. And I want to export just the selected artboards. That's why I made sure I just had one selected. And then you have a couple choices for professional printing. TIFF used to be the standard back when we worked with Quark instead of InDesign, but now that Adobe has the full gamut of printing software available, it just makes sense to go with PSD because it's a very friendly option. Yeah, that'll work. And then we'll just click run, and what it's going to do is make a PSD file for us with all of that information. Tells us where it went, and we'll go hunt down that document and open it up. So inside of that folder I just created is this document, so I will click on it, open it, and we're simply going to use this new document here to generate that little tiny image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the layers panel, click on the little menu here. It may be just out of your view. Let me see if I can bring it. There we go. Click on this little menu, and what I'm going to do is just flatten this image so that there's nothing special about it. It's just one flat image. That'll reduce the file size a little bit, and then we go up to image size. And now what we're going to do is, this is going to be a little bit different for everybody, but the first step will be to make sure that resample is checked, that the resolution is 300, and then we want to come up here, change points or whatever it's set at, but we want to make sure that it's inches here, that a resolution is 300, resample is checked, and then we're going to put in that number. We should probably only have to put in one of them. Well, hopefully we only have to put in one of them because we don't want to stretch these. So my width was 3.20 and then my height was 2.56. So yep, that's definitely close enough. If these come out drastically different, then you probably want to look into what you did wrong, because if you started with this ratio, went into Illustrator, kept that ratio going, you should come right back to square one where the ratio comes back to what you started with. Okay, so we click OK, and then we're going to do a file, save. So we're writing right over the top of the image that we just made, but not over our original artboard. Then we'll go to Illustrator. We'll make sure that we're on the images layer. There's your layers. Click on the image layer. We're going to go to File, Place. We're going to navigate into that folder. Select the image. Click on Place. And then we're going to go place this thing. And then you would just keep repeating those steps until you have all of your images in. One thing that I would suggest that you do if you're following this method that I am for working is that you don't just simply set your image on top of this thing, because if this was just slightly bigger, we don't want that showing up. So here's a suggestion that I have for you is I would go just temporarily, let's lock our images layer. We'll even turn it off. We'll go back to this layer here, and maybe I'll call this layout. Then I'll create a new layer right above that, which is the default, whatever layer you have selected. When you click the new layer icon, a new one jumps above it. And then I'll call this temp. And even, in fact, I like to start out with something real obvious like no print. So I'm reminding myself that I turn that off before I print. And then what I'm going to do is move all of these boxes onto that layer. So what I'll do is just zoom out a little bit. I'll click on this group, hold down the shift key, click on this one, shift key still down, click on this one. This little box here represents all of those items that are selected. So I'll just simply click and drag it into this layer. And now you can see if I toggle the eyeball on this layer, they all go away. So the idea is I use them just to get all my images in the right place, and then